Soda 100.1
and 97.7 Guess FM. Hi, it's Danielle here at 97.7 Guess FM with our good friend Steve Conley.
Hello.
I think we should just start out by, what is DJing? Like, what does it mean to be a DJ?
I think it's a dying breed, actually. I really do. Especially the way you kids listen. I mean, radio in the old days, in the real old days, was the only form of communication other than books. It was acting, it was skits, it was comedy, it was drama, it was all the stories you see on TV were done on radio. Then eventually that morphed out of the story thing and became kind of a jukebox. And, where you'd play records and you've listened to the radio and you hear the guys with the talk between the records. And basically, we present the music. We like to, you could just play it back to back to back. But it's funny, we found that automated just music radio stations don't do as well as ones that have personality. And especially if the personality is pretty well known, people become familiar with the radio station, talking about local things, what might be going on, like the Tigers or something like that, and and it just kind of lends itself more, I think, to a listening environment, especially in the car. Unfortunately, now there's about 10 billion options, and everything between this here and everything you can connect with that to online everything and downloading and podcasts and all the rest. And so everybody has options. Years ago, all you had was the radio. When you were in the car, you didn't have a phone. You didn't have any other form of entertainment except the radio. So it's kind of morphed from all that. And I think now disc jockeys are becoming a secondary thing. People still want to talk, podcasts, things like that, but as far as radio disc jockeys, I think it might be, like I said, a bit of a dying breed.
What is your favorite kind of music?
I have an eclectic mix from jazz to pop to rock, everything. And even a smidge of classical and old stuff like big band music. But and I think maybe that lends itself to what I do. I was music director at the old radio station, FM 100, for 12 years and program director, and so I really had to get into music and study it and watch the charts and everything, and now I couldn't tell you what's on the charts at all. I wouldn't recognize probably a song on the Billboard, top 40 or whatever. But in the day I had to, yeah. But I like everything.
So, do you get to pick the music you play, or do you go off like fan-based favorites?
Well, yes and no. I get to select some of the music a little bit, but these days, it's right here, as you can see. This is essentially a radio station right now. All of these are songs right here. All these little purple things are songs. Between those are what we call sweepers or jingles. You've heard the little, Guess FM, all that stuff. That's the little things here. Commercials are in green, and everything is pretty much preloaded. Every radio station around the country, pretty much, that we're all familiar with, is all predetermined music by the program director. Program directors and music directors, but generally it's just the PD, selects a playlist of 200, 300, 500, 1,000 songs, puts them into categories, and they all come up basically ABC, and maybe a D, which is a lunar, what we call lunar rotation, a song that might come up every 2 weeks or something. An A rotation in a contemporary station, like a top 40 station, they turn, you hear this thing, you play the songs over and over and over, you hear them all the time. Well, that's because they're in a rotation of like 2.5 to 3 hours or less. So it's always been a thing. Well, gosh, you play the same songs, but we have to play the songs because of the hits. And so the disc jockey rarely has any kind of a say as to what he plays, really. Occasionally, you give a little bit of leeway. You can play this song here and that song. Used to be back in the old days, disc jockeys just went in and played it, and they brought in their own music, and that was the good old days. And then there was something called payola, where disc jockeys were getting paid to play songs, like, hey, play this song, and here's $100, and continue to play it. Well, then the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, came in and said, you can't do that anymore, and now it's a federal law and you get busted. So, yeah.
Who were the coolest people you've met doing this job?
You got about an hour? Let me just start from the top. Paul McCartney. Bon Jovi. Played with him in a little event of 60 people at a hotel at the Marriott down in Perkins. Gosh, I mean, everybody. Vanna White, I interviewed her years ago. She came in when they were with Channel 5, and Channel 5 was going to switch to Fox network, and they were trying to do everything they could to keep Channel 5 with NBC, and they brought in Vanna White, and she sat just like this, and we talked for about a half hour, and she said, in the paper, she was interviewed and said, have you seen Steve Conley? Isn't he cute? So I saved that piece of paper. Vanna White said I was cute. Gosh, I mean, everybody from, I've wrestled with Jerry Lawler at the Coliseum with 10,000 people. I mean, you could, Rick Springfield, we played Jesse's Girl for the first time, and I hung out with Rick Springfield on an afternoon. I was the first guy to play Walking in Memphis ever in the whole world, and Mark Cohen came in, did a concert for us. I mean, it's endless. You could almost name anybody. I mean, getting to talk to Oprah or Al Gore or Jimmy Carter or, the list is almost endless. You could almost pick a celebrity, and chances are maybe, I've had an opportunity to talk to them. It's fun to see some acts, and I'm trying to think of some that, were just small and then grew into, like, we interviewed The Rock. Jerry Lawler set us up with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and we talked to him for a long time. This is before he really was just getting going with the WWE. Nobody really knew who he was, and, of course, now he's a huge movie star. But it's fun to, Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon, I went to see Legally Blonde. And it was kind of a chick flick, and I was going, okay, I'll go. And I went, and it came out, oh my gosh, it's the best movie. And we talked to her the day after we premiered it. And she was, had been in a couple of films and really not that famous. And I said, Reese, I saw your movie last night. I really appreciate talking to you because you are on a rocket ship that is going to take you to who knows where. You're going to be a huge star, and I'll never get the opportunity to talk to you again. And so I did have her cut one of those little, what we call drops, little things that go between records. Hi, I'm Reese Witherspoon. And I, when I'm in Memphis, I listen to. So I had her go, hi, this is Reese Witherspoon, Memphis. And when I'm in Memphis, I listen to FM 100. And isn't Steve Conley cute? So I prompted her to say that, obviously, but I kept that cut for a long time.
How did you know you wanted to be a DJ?
I really didn't. I was at the University of Wisconsin, and I had electives to take, and I had to take a speech class. So I was walking through the Arts and Communications building, and I saw on the wall, it said, WRST Radio, 4th floor. I said, well, that's kind of cool. So I go and and I get out, and I walk in, there's studios, like this. Oh, well, this is pretty neat. So I'll just take an intro to radio TV class. And there's about 200 kids in this lecture hall, and the teacher, or the instructor, the professor who was the head of the department, he was teaching the class, and on the first day, he said, how many are going to be in broadcasting? And, about half the class, or how many of you would like to be in broadcasting? Half the class, and the other people were just in there just taking electives, just taking a class. And he said, well, out of you, we found that about only 5% will actually be in broadcasting, and only 1% will be in it after 5 years. And 40 years later, hello. So I was at 1%. And I took that class, and then I took another, and I was in announcing class, and then they had the station, the college station. I was the chief announcer, and I did a show on Thursday nights and stuff. And then I noticed the next semester there was a notice on the wall that said, we need a part-time disc jockey at WOSH in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So I just sent him a tape, and he called the next day and said, hey, come on in, we'd like to hire you. So